Hello and welcome to the Homemade Songwriter. I'm Matt, and in today's video we're talking about beating writer's block. Let's get into it. Writer's block is something that every artist faces at some point or another, regardless of their skill level or how long they've been creating, or even what medium they create in. You know, a painter, just as much as a screenwriter or a musician, can all experience writer's block. It's those moments when anything you try to create feels cheesy or forced, or maybe even there's no ideas coming at all and you feel like you're in a sort of creative purgatory. As a songwriter, I've experienced this many times, and there's a few things that I've picked up on along the way that have helped me get through those times. And so I thought I'd share them with you to see if they're helpful. So here are 6 ways to help you beat writer's block. Tip number 1 is to write a terrible song. I know that might sound crazy or stupid, but you really just have to trust me on this one. Often what we really need when we're experiencing writer's block is to finish a song, and writing a terrible song can really help give you that momentum that you need to get back into writing. I think that perfectionism is something that every artist struggles with in some form or fashion, and that can really be one of the biggest blocks to creating anything. We get so paralyzed over what we're creating turning out bad that we think it's better to just not create at all, because then at least I won't fail. And what's funny is all of your favorite bands and musicians and writers and painters, they've all created terrible things. They've all written bad songs and painted ugly paintings. But those aren't the ones that they hang on the wall, or those aren't the ones that end up on the album. Not every song that you write has to be your next single. Give yourself permission to write a bad song and then just move on. Sometimes when we're writing, we're not writing the next chart topper. We are simply honing our craft. I've heard Ed Sheeran talk about this, and he uses the metaphor of like a tap, maybe a water tap that hasn't been turned on in a long time, and when you open the spigot, it starts running dirty water. You know, just all that sludge and everything that's built up and that stagnant pipe is just running out, and then eventually the clean water starts running again. The dirty water is the terrible songs. Those are the cheesy lyrics, the bad melody, but eventually, if you get that out of the way, the clean water starts to flow again, and that clean water is the good songs, the inspiring songs. So ultimately, writing a terrible song is helpful because it proves to you that you can, in fact, finish a song. And by finishing a song, you're honing your craft. And by honing your craft, you will be better prepared to write your next song. So finishing a song, getting it under your belt, and moving on, giving you the momentum to keep creating. Tip number 2 is to collaborate with somebody. I know you've heard the saying that 2 heads are better than 1, and that's definitely true when co-writing. You know, having someone that you can bounce an idea off creatively is extremely valuable. And most of the time when you're writing with somebody, whatever idea you're working on ends up being better than what it would have turned out had you written it by yourself or had they written it by themselves. Another reason co-writing is helpful is because having a set time on your calendar, a deadline where you're going to meet and be in a room with somebody and you have to write a song can create a lot of pressure. And sometimes that pressure is what you need to create. Deadlines and accountability can be great motivators. I remember when I was first starting out songwriting, obviously I didn't have any deadlines or anybody I was accountable to for my music because I was just starting. But my songs would take forever to write. There was no deadline. And so I would just drag it on and on and on. And then by the time I'd finish it, I would hate it. But if you have a set time when you're going to meet with somebody, that can really stir up those creative juices. And it might just be the kickstart that you need. Co-writing can also be helpful because of the combination of strengths. Maybe you're really good at melody and writing music, but lyrically you feel a little lost. If you can team up with someone who's a strong lyricist, then that's 2 halves of a really good song. When you finish that song, you essentially only have to do half the work, if you want to think about it that way. You're really just combining your strengths to create a song that's better than either of you could have done on your own. Tip number 3 is to try a new or an unfamiliar instrument. So if you're a multi-instrumentalist, try writing on your second instrument. It could be if you're a guitarist like me and you sit down with your trusty guitar, you go immediately into those same licks and those same patterns of playing that you've been doing every time you've sat down the last 3 months you picked up the guitar. So if you move to a new instrument that feels a little foreign, that forces you to think about music and writing differently, and that can help break out of those ruts. It's amazing how just the different tactile nature of a new instrument or the new way an instrument is laid out, like piano versus guitar, can really help change things up. Or you could also try writing on an instrument that you're completely unfamiliar with. Maybe you've never even touched a mandolin, or maybe you are a pianist and you've never touched a guitar. Borrow a friend's or go to a guitar store and see if you can pick one up and play and write a little bit on it, because being in a completely new environment forces you to rely just on your ear and what sounds good and what's inspiring to you. That helps you avoid the pitfalls of those finger paths that you're familiar with that you've played a million times that are dull and uninteresting. And I think even writing on someone else's instrument. Like if you're a guitarist and you borrow your buddy's guitar, even just the way a new instrument feels in your hands can help lead you to new song structures or new melodies because of the way the instrument is reacting to your hands. Tip number 4 is to stop writing and to listen. Maybe the reason that you're experiencing writer's block in the first place is because you've been pouring out so much creatively and not filling back up. So take some time to listen to music that you really love and be filled up. But I want to challenge you to not listen passively, but to listen with a learning ear. What is it about that song that grabs you? Is it the chord structure? Is it the way the melody plays over those chords? Is it the arrangement, the instrumentation? Be a student of the kind of music you love and then try to take that and apply it to your music the next time you sit down to write. In addition to listening to music that you love, try listening to something that you normally wouldn't listen to. You'd be surprised what catches your ear and what inspires you in a way that you wouldn't thought was possible. Tip number 5 is to give yourself some constraints. I know that constraints may feel like the opposite of what you need when you can't even figure out what to put on the blank page, but sometimes having the endless options of what you could write about is really what's crippling you and hindering you in your writing. And having some constraints can help alleviate some of the overwhelm of the endless possibilities. Some examples of this might be try writing a song with just 3 chords, or go to a random word generator website, pick 3 words, and then one of those words has to be in your song title. Or try writing a song in just an hour or a certain amount of time. And finally, tip number 6 is to rewrite or rearrange an old song. One way to bypass that terror of a blank page is to go to a page that you've already filled that maybe you aren't very happy with and you think could be improved upon. Identify the lyrics that are lacking in that song and try to beat them. Sometimes people call this punching up the lyrics. Or you could try to rearrange your song from a new perspective. Could you change the genre of your song? Or could it be written for a duet as opposed to a solo artist? Rewriting is a great way to finish another song, but it doesn't take quite as much creative or emotional energy and can help you give that boost of confidence of finishing a song that you need to keep going and keep creating. And that's really the ultimate reason that we need to beat writer's block, is so that you don't stop creating. I believe the world needs your music, and if you give into the fatigue of writer's block, then those people who love your music won't get it. So hang in there and put one of these tips to the test and see if you can finish another song. My question for you is, what tips do you have for beating writer's block? Please let us know in the comments. And if you found value in this video, please like it and subscribe for more content like this. But before you go, I want to give you something. If you're struggling with writer's block right now and you feel like you need a helping hand because you don't really know where to begin, I put together a free guide that's 30 songwriting prompts to help give you a sort of creative jump start. It's completely free. The link is in the description. Feel free to download that, and I hope it helps. All right, that's it for this one. Keep writing, and we'll see you in the next one.